They thought this would end you, but somehow you're still here, and that matters more than you realize. You didn't land on this moment by accident, and if you move past this too quickly, you might miss the very thing meant to steady you. Something came at your life with force, aiming to shake your peace, unravel your path, and convince you that you were on your own. But hear this clearly, it didn't succeed because you were never abandoned, not even for a moment. What you felt was heavy, the confusion was real, the pressure was undeniable, but the ending that was supposed to happen never did, because something greater held the line. You made it through, you're still breathing, still aware, still standing, and that alone proves the story didn't end where it was supposed to. Aim to affirm. Stay with me for a second, because what you're about to understand goes deeper than what it looks like on the surface. That moment that nearly crushed your spirit, that loss that hollowed you out, that stress that kept you restless, none of it was small or meaningless. It was building piece by piece, trying to leave you with nothing left to hold on to. But there was a strength inside you that you didn't even recognize yet, and a covering around you that you couldn't see. Nay, even when it felt like silence surrounded you, even when it seemed like no help was coming, things were moving in your favor behind the scenes. Okay. Before you go further, take a second and like this video as a small act of belief, because what comes next may shift how you see everything. You kept going when quitting felt easier, and you held on when everything told you to let go. That wasn't random, and it wasn't luck. It was because you were not meant to fall apart in that moment. There were turning points where everything could have gone another way, where one detail could have changed your entire path. But things were redirected. Delays happened for a reason. Certain doors stayed closed, and only what would strengthen you was allowed through. That is why you are still standing even if you feel worn down. What you went through was not wasted. Every tear, every quiet night, every moment you almost gave up, it all became part of something being built within you. You were not meant to be broken by it, you were being shaped through it. What was meant to harm you is now part of what will move you forward, even if you don't fully see it yet. You might still feel the weight of it, but it no longer controls you. It doesn't get to define you anymore, because the outcome has already shifted. There are people who would have collapsed under what you faced, and paths that would have ended differently for others, but you were not left alone, even when it felt like you were. There was something within you that kept pushing forward when everything felt too much. Man, too. That quiet resilience wasn't just you. It was something deeper holding you together when everything else felt like it was falling apart. You may not have noticed it then, but you were carried through something that was never meant to end you. Type each anybody, see if you feel it. Now pause for a second, because this is where things start to change. The fact that it didn't take you out means your life holds more than what tried to stop it. There is something ahead that required you to survive. That's why you were protected. That's why you kept moving, even when you felt empty. Your survival was not random. It was intentional. You may still question why it all happened, but not everything that comes against you is meant to stay, and not everything painful is meant to finish you. Some things are temporary, they pass through, but they don't get the final say. What tried to reach the end of your story was stopped before it could finish. That's why you're here now. Do not overlook that. Do not treat your survival like something ordinary. There were moments you didn't see, shifts you'll never fully know about, and timing that worked in ways you couldn't track. It may have felt like you were barely holding on, but from another perspective, you were being preserved for something. This is not your ending. It's proof your story continues. What came against you won't return in the same way because its hold has already been broken. The version of you standing now is not the same as before, and it's not supposed to be. You've been refined, strengthened, and prepared for what's next, even if you're still figuring it out step by step. What if everything you thought was falling apart was actually clearing space for something greater? Hold that thought for a second, because this is where your perspective begins to shift. The fact that you're still here means there's more in front of you than behind you. And what's ahead needed a stronger version of you. That's what this process has been doing all along. You may still carry questions, but clarity is coming in layers. Yes. Core, and each layer is preparing you to move differently than before. You're not the same person who walked into that storm, and that matters more than you think. You're starting to see things differently, respond differently, value different things, and that shift didn't come out of nowhere. It came from everything you endured. What felt like everything falling apart was actually something rebuilding inside you. What couldn't support your future had to fall away, even if it hurt. And what remains now is stronger, clearer, and more aligned with where you're going. Type Chenling Is if you trust the process. I want you to understand something that will steady you. What once had access to you doesn't have that same reach anymore. You've grown beyond certain patterns, you've seen through certain illusions, and you've built a resilience that doesn't shake easily. What used to overwhelm you won't hit the same now, because you're not the same person anymore. You've been through a process that changed how you stand and how you move forward. There were moments where everything felt unstable, like nothing was solid. But even then, something deeper was being built within you, a foundation that doesn't collapse when things shift. That's why you're still here with a quiet strength after everything. You might still feel echoes of the past, moments where old fears try to return. But those moments don't define where you're going anymore. They belong to where you've been, not where you're headed. Your future is not controlled by what tried to end you. It's shaped by what you've already overcome. And you're moving forward with a protection you may not even fully recognize yet. The truth is, you were never as close to being finished as it felt. It was intense, yes, but never out of control. You were tested, but not defeated, and that difference changes everything. Because it means your story continues with strength, not loss. You're stepping into a season where things will begin to shift quietly at first. Small signs, subtle changes, but real ones, doors opening, clarity replacing confusion, and you'll start to notice it. None of it is random. It's all been in motion longer than you think. What you survived made space for what's coming next. Type Arbek Asara to receive what's ahead. Don't rush past this part, because what's being built in you now is meant to last. This isn't about quick fixes. It's about something deeper taking root, something that won't break under pressure. You're being strengthened from the inside out, so when challenges come again, they won't hit the same. You'll stand differently, with a confidence that comes from experience. You already know what it feels like to face something that tried to take you out, and you're still here. That changes how you move forward. There's also something important about your value. What came against you didn't come without reason. It came because there's something in you that matters. Your life carries weight. Your presence has impact, and your future holds something that couldn't be stopped. That's why the pressure was so intense. But the final decision was never in the hands of what came against you, and you were not forgotten. Even in your lowest moments, every detail was seen. Every silent struggle was known, and things were moving, even when it felt like nothing was. That's why you made it through. As you move forward, carry a different kind of trust. Not blind, but built on what you've already lived through. You've seen what happens when something tries to break you and fails. That's not something to ignore. That's something to remember, because it proves you're not walking alone. And it proves that what comes against you doesn't get the final word. What's ahead will take courage. But you won't face it unsupported. You don't need all the answers right now. Just keep moving forward. Because the same force that carried you through before is still guiding you now,